Go Hogs. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone.
We have a saying around our place, we eat off the floor. And if you're willing to eat off the floor, you can be special.
And if you're not committed. We're live in the Bank Plus studio, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Jackson's definitely the type that will eat off the floor for this show. He'll do whatever it takes. The SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. We welcome in National College Football Analyst with ESPN, Tom Luginbill, on the show. Lugs, do you? I think this is going to be a hell no, but we did ours yesterday. Do you play fantasy football?
No. Good Lord. I barely got enough time in the day to do my actual job.
Well, we may have had a couple of beers and some tamales and wings yesterday and had a group together. And in fact, you'll appreciate this. I had the first pick in the draft because we were terrible last year. So we went with Ashton Genty out of Boise State as our first pick, Luke's.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Figure Pete Carroll will run him all the time, hopefully inside the 1, 2, 3 yard line. We can score some TDs. All right. So the big buzz is Texas and Ohio State. And I want to get your thoughts on the fact that Ohio State lost both their coordinators, that Chip Kelly joined Pete Carroll with the Raiders, and Jim Knowles, for whatever reason, decided to leave Ohio State after winning a national title and go to Penn State. And so Ryan Day wakes up and he'll have a big game week 1 with 2 totally new coordinators and systems. Whereas Luke's and I know Texas, Arch didn't play much, so he's basically a new starter, but everybody on that team is running the same system they've been running for the last 4 years on both offense with Sark and defense with Kite, as you know. So, how big of an advantage is it for Texas to be where they are with their coordinators being there and Ohio State losing them after they won the national title, Luke?
Right, but offensively for Ohio State, their offensive coordinator's been on staff ever since Ryan Day took the job. I don't see a big shift there philosophically. I don't see a shift in terms of terminology and verbiage that would, look like you've gone back to the drawing board and reinvented the whole offense. I think the focus for Ohio State isn't so much about who's calling the plays, isn't so much about what the plays are called. It's how quickly can they get a young, inexperienced quarterback acclimated. And I, to be honest with you, you asked me this question about Ohio State. Look across college football. Like look at the programs that are starting over at quarterback. Ohio State, Michigan, okay, Texas, Oklahoma. The list goes on and on and on. Of Georgia, Gunnar Stockton. There are high-profile programs right now that don't know what the quarterback position is going to be yet. And in that matchup, obviously Arch Manning has played more than Julian Sayin or Lincoln Keenholz, the 2 guys in the running at Ohio State. But I don't worry so much about the shift in coaching, the shift in personality. Ohio State's got such great players and such great culture and personnel that they'll adapt to the leadership of coaching. I don't have any doubt about that.
Okay. All right. So, and if you had to handicap it, wouldn't you say the talent on each squad's a push, basically?
Yeah, I probably would. I think that, both Ohio State and Texas last year, really good in the offensive line, had some departures that they've got to replace. All right. But now you got to go out and prove that you've got depth. I don't think Texas has the firepower that Ohio State has at wide receiver, top to bottom. Not that they're not competitive, but it's like nobody has a Jeremiah Smith or a Ryan Williams.
Woo!
So
hello,
that's an advantage for Ohio State.
Goodness.
Right there.
Hey, hold on. Let me interrupt. Is that the best duo since Chase and Jefferson in 2019 with Burrow, Luke? The wide receiver duo that you just referenced?
Well, Ryan's at Alabama. Jeremiah's at Ohio State.
Oh, got it.
So they're
Got
not on the same team. Yeah, not on the same team. But I will say this. The Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams coming out at the same time of the same class is probably the best that we've seen
That's right.
since Julio Jones and A.J. Green came out in the '08 class.
Now that's strong. Wow. Okay. So you look at it as Texas at Ohio State, push talent, Ohio State at home. Texas has, I think, a little more going for them as far as continuity. I know you say, hey, I think they'll be able to work it out. Was it odd that Jim Knowles decided to go from Ohio State to Penn State?
Yes, but I think maybe behind the scenes there's a little bit more. I've seen some comments made by Jim Knowles that he's maybe a little frustrated that, it came time to talk contract and extension and maybe, popping up and getting a raise that wasn't coming from the university side. And so
What?
I think, this wasn't, I think, just about him deciding to leave. I think there were some other factors at play.
Okay. All right, Tom Luginbill on the Out of Bounds show. So it's interesting you were talking about new quarterbacks, and yet you and I were also discussing that this could be the deepest group possibly in the history of college football, Luke, as we were going through.
At least in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Let's take a second here and just read some of these off, okay? So these are guys that are all going to be playing, all right, that are all going to be draft eligible, all right? Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. Cade Klubnik, Clemson. Sam Levitt, Arizona State. Lenora Sellers, South Carolina. Drew Aller, Penn State. Carson Beck, Miami. Haynes King at Georgia Tech. Rocco Beck at Iowa State. Miller Moss at Louisville.
Wow.
Fernando Mendoza at Indiana. Avery Johnson, Kent State. Luke Altmaier, Illinois. Jake Retzlaff at Tulane. Marcel Reed at A&M. Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt. This is ridiculous. John Mateer at Oklahoma.
Wow.
Jalen Daniels at Kansas. I just go Jackson Arnold at Auburn. Noah Fafita at Arizona. I mean, it's ridiculous. Kevin Jennings at SMU. The caliber of player playing quarterback in college football right now in this class alone is ridiculous.
Luke Altmaier from Starkville High School to Ole Miss to Illinois. Unbelievable. Yeah, no, that's a great group. It really is. And with the new guys that we're referencing, and then some of the guys that aren't eligible, but we're expecting big things from, like DJ Lagway. To me, Lagway, if the stars line up and he stays healthy, Lagway could be the guy that we're talking about September, October, and November, like all year with his playmaking ability. But I just feel like his life and football IQ and everything that he can do when the live bullets are going against him, I think he's got everything that you need to be an absolute star. How do you see it?
I do too, but the whole entire thing is health. And you talk about an entire season riding on one guy.
Yeah.
Because I think Florida's going to be really good. I do. The schedule's daunting once again. But if DJ Lagway stays healthy, Florida's going to be a problem. And if he doesn't, it's going to be a problem for Florida.
That's true. So Florida, for our listeners, Florida goes to Ole Miss. This doesn't happen often, but now that we don't have divisions anymore, you'll see more people start when they redo the schedule. But Mississippi State and Ole Miss play Florida. That's happened like 2 or 3 times in the last 50 years in the same season. So Florida goes to Ole Miss, and Mississippi State will go to Florida. And if Lagway's healthy, it's going to be an issue. So are you sold on that? Is it Garrett Riley? That's Lincoln's brother, who's Dabo's OC, right?
Yeah.
Are you sold on him as a really good really good play caller, or he's still developing and he's trending that way, but I'm not ready to call it as one of the better play callers in the country?
No, I absolutely think he's one of the better play callers in the country. Now, understand when he took that job, and they started to go in a different direction with their offense, and they were going to take a new approach, he wasn't inheriting redshirt junior Cade Klubnik. He was inheriting redshirt freshman Cade Klubnik.
Right.
And at the time, they didn't have the personnel at wide receiver that they're playing with now. That offensive philosophy approach has grown together through recruiting, through experience, and now having been in that offense going into year 3. So if you would have asked me this question 2 years ago, my only answer would have been, well, if you base it off of the year that TCU went to the national championship, yeah, you're probably saying he's a really good play caller. But now you have a much larger sample size to make that assessment. This offense, through recruiting, through development, through retention, I mean, they're playing with Bryant Wesco, Antonio Williams, TJ Moore at wide receiver. All of their offensive line is back. Cade Klubnik had a monster year last year, and almost their entire defense is back. This is as close a Clemson team to their national title teams as Dabo has had in the last 5 years.
Hello, Tom Luginbill with ESPN on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. So if you had to handicap LSU at Clemson week 1, who has the advantage talent-wise in the game, in your opinion, for this year, 2025?
Clemson does, because until we start seeing LSU get back to what we've all thought LSU should be on defense, that's where Clemson has the edge. Clemson might have 2 top 10 picks in their front 7. They're going to have an eventual top 10 to 15 pick at middle linebacker, but he's only a true sophomore in Sammy Brown. They're going to have potentially a first-round pick at safety and at corner. So all 3 levels, Clemson is loaded on defense. Tom Allen comes over from Penn State, former head coach at Indiana. I think he's just going to do a wonderful job. He's really, really good. So until LSU can prove that they have got that side of the football fixed, I would say Clemson has the advantage going in.
Oh, and LSU hasn't won an opener since 2019. I mean,
yeah, and they've struggled against ACC teams for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Leach got them in the first game of COVID 2020. They've gone back-to-back years losing to Florida State? Is that right, Luke?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think if they can get by Clemson, I think they'll be in the discussion the way their schedule lines up with Nussmeier and so on. But if they don't, they'll be really playing uphill the rest of the way.
I don't know if that's true. I tell you, now that the playoff is expanded to 12, and I don't want to make it as black and white as this is going to come out, but who cares what happens in the opening game? Like, honestly, if you lose that game, you're going to have to lose at least 2 more times probably to be in danger of missing the college football playoff if you're a ranked team. I mean, think about it. If look at Ole Miss last year. All right, Ole Miss's problem was down the stretch with LSU and Florida, right? And then you have what, the Kentucky game?
Yeah.
And they were still on the fringe of making it. So while we have all these high-profile marquee matchups, and I love it for college football, I love it for the fans, but the moment we expanded away from just 4 playoff teams in the college football playoff, this isn't the end of the world if you don't win this game. Clemson made the playoff last year after getting demolished by Georgia in the second half of the opening game last year.
Yeah, but they're in the ACC, and not that that's not a good conference. This is a different bear, is the way I look at that. Like Clemson's built like an SEC team.
It's a different bear. It's a different bear. You don't lose to Kentucky.
Well, look, I still can't believe Ole Miss lost to Kentucky at home with their best roster and with Lane and Pete and Golding. Yeah. But I mean, it just goes to show. Look, do you agree with this? It's more difficult to handicap the game that you and I both love, and our listeners listening, because of the portal and the lack of depth from the blue blood. It's extremely difficult to handicap all this now, right? With the portal and everything.
There's no question. We'll usually, we prognosticate, we project based on the information we have and this and that. Nobody knows what product's going to go on the field when you have a 20, 30, 40, in some cases 60 and 70 man roster turnover. Like obviously a large topic of conversation heading into this season is about North Carolina and Bill Belichick.
Right.
Anybody who says they know what North Carolina is going to be is literally out of their mind, uneducated on the state of college football. That's 70 new players. Nobody knows what North Carolina is going to be.
No.
And you could say that for the vast majority of most of the college football programs. I mean, you look at, Ohio State last year. They went out, bought a fantastic roster. The stars aligned. They win the national championship. Look at Florida State 2 years ago. Had almost every impact player on that roster was a transfer, and it worked. The following year, they made disastrous decisions in the transfer portal. They went 2-10. Nobody knows.
Yeah. Ohio State lost the last game of the regular season last year to a Michigan team that couldn't even get a first down pretty much the whole year. And then that's pretty remarkable what they did in the postseason. And I think really what Chip Kelly did as far as maybe tweaking that offense just a little bit, Luke's, and how they got rolling in the postseason.
Yeah, I think that they just got hot at the right time. Like they ended up getting the right draw in the playoff. All right, so you get that draw with Tennessee, and you're hosting them. You have a quarterback that played below average the entire year at Tennessee, and you're on the road, and that guy wasn't going to win a playoff game for you. And then you have this veteran Ohio State team. So now all of a sudden you win that game, and they start just rolling. They get hot, and all of a sudden everything starts to click. And that happens, man. I mean, that's the nature of the sport. I mean, it's no different than what Ohio State did in 2014. That Ohio State team lost to a below-average Virginia Tech team in week 2 at home. Mm-hmm. And the next thing you know, their starting quarterback goes down. Their second-team quarterback goes down. Actually, in a game that I had Ohio State-Michigan that year when J.T. Barrett went down and Cardell Jones comes in. They beat Michigan, and then they go on and win the national championship with a third-team quarterback. Like, that doesn't happen.
Tom Luginbill with ESPN on the Out of Bounds show. All right, you referenced Ohio State being an older team, and they were able to fight through the adversity of getting embarrassed by Michigan and get their act together and got hot at the right time. It's kind of like March Madness, what we've set up now in college football postseason. So would Clemson fit in that category this year, as far as older and?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you look, do you remember all the heat over the last 2 to 3 years on Dabo Swinney? Everybody pressuring him to get into the transfer portal and, completely change his approach, completely deviate from the path that got him there. And he dug his heels in and he's like, no, that's not how we do it. And as a result, see, what they've done is they've taken NIL and they've used it within their own roster for retention, as opposed to going out on the market and using it. So they have very few defections. They have guys that have chosen to stay. They have guys that chose not to enter into the NFL draft. And so here they sit by not deviating, by not just abandoning the core principles of their program. And at the end of the day, they've got this veteran team at almost every level, and they haven't had to go out and bring out outside influences to put it together. I think that's a huge advantage for them.
I can't wait to see what Clemson does this year, because it's a stacked roster. They've got all these guys going to the NFL draft early, projected next spring. Yeah. So this is going to be exciting. For our listeners, LSU at Clemson, week 1. He's Tom Luginbill on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. All right, I want to switch gears again, talk about Eli Drinkwitz. Have you been around him at all or gotten to know him at all, Luke?
Oh, yeah. Going back to when he was a GA at Auburn.
Oh, wow. So he's kind of, I mean, he and Kiffin are the funniest, kind of wittiest. That dude is, it looks like he's always up to something. And the way he started off his SEC press conference was hilarious. at SEC Media Days. But he's obviously good and smart, but what, a little goofy and funny? Help me out here. Describe him, if you would.
Yeah, he's just he's a very different, quirky, kind of goofy, happy-go-lucky personality. He's funny because he has like a pretty healthy ego, but it's not in an abrasive way. You know, it's a little bit endearing, especially if you spend any time with him, you know, face to face and personally. It's funny you ask me about him because he's like one of those guys that when you sit down and you have your coaches meeting, before you get into any football, you've talked like 5 other topics that have nothing to do with football.
Okay, like Leach. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, like Leach, but well, nobody has conversations like Mike Leach did. But yeah, I mean, just in the sense, like I got into a cigar conversation with him one time for a long time, and I got into a conversation that had to do with, you know, scheduling of your staff in the summer and, you know, who has to come in the office, who gets the day off, what's the rotation like just getting into different nuances of the profession.
Yeah. I mean, he was at App State as the head coach for like 5 minutes. And so we weren't, you know, and that's kind of a setup program to a certain extent. I mean, with what Moore and maybe one other dude did before him, I can't remember. And so I really wasn't sure, Luke, and I know you're right in the backyard there. But he and Beamer are the two that have surprised me, Tom Luginbill, to be honest. I just wasn't sure it was going to work. And hey, give them credit. It's worked at Missouri and South Carolina.
Yeah, a couple of things have happened for Missouri, and it had to do with timing. When he took that job, for whatever reason, there were 2 consecutive cycles in recruiting, the 2022 class and the 2023 class, that were really good in Missouri and Kansas and Iowa. And then they were able, that kind of coincided with them putting together a, you know, relatively impressive NIL deal and collective, and they were able to keep a lot of those guys at home. So they bolstered their roster at the right time, and it worked. And I think the Missouri job and this isn't to discount Shane Beamer in any way, shape, or form, but Shane Beamer's at a job where he has access to players in every direction.
Right.
Missouri, that is not the case at Missouri.
Right. You
got to go into everybody else's backyard to put your roster together.
That's a good point. They've both done a really good job. I mean, and not sure what's going to happen with the Penn State transfer and the redshirt junior at Missouri, but with Lenoris coming back and Shula getting promoted to the OC really lines up for South Carolina, Luke's. I don't know we got to get out of here, but I think that is a big time upgrade. And I think Shula is going to be really good with Lenoris. I hope you have a great week, buddy, and I appreciate you joining us so early in the morning and early in the week. Thanks, dude.
All right, buddy. Have a good one. See ya.
Tom Luginbill, National College Football Analyst with ESPN. He joined us on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Go local, go with the home team, as Jake Mangum likes to tell us. He made a great catch last night.